let's get right into it. So how to avoid a bad tattoo experience. Step number 1. The first thing you're going to want to do is your research. So number 1 is to find a style that piques your interest. Places like Google search, Instagram, and Pinterest are great places to find references. You'll be able to see so many different styles. But say you're unaware of the different tattoo styles. If that's the case, then you're going to want to go on Google and just simply ask, what are different tattoo styles? Most articles you come across will list all or most popular styles these days. If they don't have any photos, then what you'll want to do is just open up another tab and Google each style as you go along. Then you'll be able to see any photos or many photos and be able to catch any similarities between each piece. For example, I do New School, and in New School, you're gonna see very bold line work as well as bold colors, as well as very odd proportions. For example, another is Traditional. You're gonna see a lot of the same line weights as well as a very limited color palette. And there's things like Trash Polka, Neo-Traditional, Watercolor, and Japanese Traditional. Each style is very different from one another, so make sure you do some in-depth research of the one that catches your eye or you have the most interest in, because whatever you Google will really determine what it shows you. So you found a style that piques your interest. At this point, you're gonna wanna find the most appropriate artist for your tattoo, so you can look online like at shop websites or on places like Instagram, because many people have public social media profiles that they showcase their artwork on. Some important points to note when you're looking for an artist is that number 1, time spent in the industry does not always mean you're gonna have an artist that does great work. I've personally seen so many tattoo artists that have 10 plus years of experience and it still looks like they're just picking up their tattoo machine for the first time. A great way to check someone's work is actually the zoom test. So when looking at all their images, you will want to zoom in and really examine their lines or color packing skills. If they can't tattoo a straight or solid line or fill in the color fully, then they might not be the artist you should choose. Here's some examples of my work that shows good line work and smooth solid color packing. Number 2, this is actually my personal opinion, but I would avoid asking places like Facebook Marketplace for recommendations. It's always better to do your own research, because although it can be helpful, it can also be very unhelpful at the same time. Most commenters will just post, oh, you should go and see blank, but they might not be aware of the work quality and might just be trying to shout out a friend. Just remember, it's always best to book an appointment based on the look of a portfolio and not just because of a recommendation. Once you have found a tattoo artist that you would potentially want to book with, you're really going to want to look through their social platforms and note consistencies, as well as making sure they have clean lines and solid color packing. These are the most important things to look for when trying to find an artist, so you'll be able to get a consistent and professional looking tattoo. Once you have made your final decision on this tattoo artist, you're going to want to book a consult with them. Coming into the consult, you should be mindful, open-minded, and prepared with a descriptive tattoo plan. So in your plan, you might want to note whether it's in color or black and gray, as well as any little elements that you want included in the tattoo or what you want the main focus to be. Being descriptive with your tattoo artist is the most important, because we can't read your minds, and we want to make sure that you have the best possible outcome and tattoo that you won't regret down the line. Then during the consult process, you and your tattoo artist will be able to go over what is possible and what isn't overly possible. So it's very important to keep an open mind to different possibilities and not get too set on certain small details and little elements of the tattoo, because there are some things that might look great on paper, but they might not translate well into a tattoo. All right, point number 4. This is the time between booking the appointment to the time of the appointment. So the designing process is very different between some artists, and some artists work on projects potentially weeks or days prior to the appointment, whereas some may work on it the night before, like myself. So this is why it can be very important to be direct and have a clear, solid plan together. That way you can avoid any sort of last minute changes or wasting appointment time on large alterations. Another little bit of information is for the care of your skin prior to your appointment. There are many ways that you can prepare your skin for a tattoo. For example, making sure you're well hydrated weeks before your tattoo appointment. It is great for the skin and great for you overall because we should all be hydrated and carrying around water bottles. Why not? Another thing you could do is exfoliate and lotion your skin a couple times in the week prior to, probably not the day of, but definitely a couple days before your appointment. That way your skin isn't dry, which can make it sensitive and a little more susceptible to overworking. Dry skin is never fun to work on. It's very hard. I'll just leave it at that. So now you're at your appointment. One very important part is obviously seeing the stencil prior to sitting on the table and getting the tattoo. That way you know exactly what you're getting. I've heard many horror stories about clients going in, seeing a tattoo, and then the artist just does whatever they want and adds a whole bunch of elements that the client didn't agree on, and then they have a tattoo that they're not okay with. As for me, I'm very clear that what they're seeing right now is just a stencil. Some artists provide a colored or shaded copy of the tattoo. I personally don't, but I'm always very clear with my client about what colors I may be using, and usually I'll get them to actually check my color palette as we go, or they can also choose their colors as well prior to me pouring them. So your artist should be very descriptive of the process, whether it's vocally or physically showing you a color copy. And then one of the most important parts of the whole entire tattooing experience is that you need to see that your artist's needles are unopened before you start tattooing. All needles are disposable. It is required by the health services. Your tattoo artist should be opening these needles in front of you. That way you're aware they're all fresh and are only used on you and not somebody else, of course. So now you're laying on the tattoo table. It's time to get tattooed, and there are a few things that you should keep in mind as you're getting tattooed, like making sure you're staying still. If you happen to need to move, just make sure you communicate that to your tattoo artist, because if you move in the middle of a line, chances are you're gonna get some wobbles and jaggedy edges. Unfortunately, we're not robots and can't predict every little movement, which can cause us to have some mistakes, which neither of us want. So like I said, staying still is super duper important.
As a tattoo artist, we all want to make sure that you have a super great experience and get the best possible outcome that you want. We really stress the importance of having an original tattoo, and if you're new here, you probably don't know, but I feel like I've talked about this in a lot of my other videos about just how important something custom and original to you is. There's too many cases where a tattoo design starts trending and then everybody and their mom has the exact same tattoo. We get exhausted because we do the same thing over and over again. Let's try to avoid the ones that have been done lots and try to put some sort of important significance to it, because in all reality, it's not custom to fit you, and you want something that is custom to you and personal to you. And maybe other people don't have to understand the importance of your tattoo, but what matters is that you like it and it's something important and meaningful to yourself.